Hola Chantal, bienvenida. Hablamos de Spanglish.
Ay, muchísimas gracias, Ana. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Qué lo que?
Estamos listas. We're ready to chisme.
Uy, this is Spanglish and chisme all together.
I
Me
know,
gusta.
I know. No, so excited to have you here. Hablamos de Spanglish. Bueno, quería desde hace tiempo ya tenerte acá en este espacio, for you to share a little bit about your story, where is Chantal from, and, why did she decided to come here to the U.S., and yes, so please share a little bit of that with us.
Okay, thank you. Well, appreciate you having me in Hablamos Spanglish. I am very much Spanglish. I was born in Ohio, super random. Then moved to Dominican Republic. That's where my family's from.
Okay.
My parents were super homesick, done with college. Okay, let's go back to Dominican Republic. I grew up in Dominican Republic, but my dad was like, you got to go study in the U.S. It's like the best 4 years of your life. Go to college. It's amazing. You're going to grow so much. And I'm like, okay.
So they were the ones that were telling you to come here.
My dad was like, and I was like, okay, whatever. Like I was 13 and he's like, start doing like the SAT prep and all this. And I'm like, I just want to play sports. I was super tomboy. So I was like, can I just play like volleyball, soccer and like be left alone? And he's like, you got to compete with Americans. Like English is your second language. Like, and I was like, yes, sir.
So did your parents live here as well?
They did my dad did a master's.
Okay. So they knew.
So they knew, yes. They were like, you have to do it. It's going to open so many doors. And because I was born when they were in the U.S., I was an American citizen. So they were like, you can apply for financial aid. You have all these benefits. You need to use them. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but okay. I was like, okay. Awesome. I was like, and I always was so obedient child. I was like, I always try to be like the perfect child that I was like, yes, to everything. If they said I had to do it, I was like, okay, no questions asked. Like I would just do it.
That's
straight
awesome.
A student, whatever it was still like, I was like, okay.
That's great. And, also by having his perspective and his knowledge about, you need to take advantage of all the opportunities that the U.S., has. And at what time did you come?
So
at what age?
Yeah, I went to U.S. when I was 18, when I went to college. Okay. So I finished high school in Dominican Republic. But so that it does make a difference when your dad knows. And I'm super lucky that he knew he had a vision. And he was like, all I can offer you is good education. And then after, you're not going to be on my pay. He literally said, you're not going to be on my payroll anymore. Oh. So he's like, I'm preparing you so you're not on my payroll.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I accept the challenge.
I was like, okay. I literally was just like, I just said okay to everything because I did not know what it meant at the time. So I was like, okay, whatever. And my school was more, it was Catholic.
Okay.
So it was more about values and, and prayer and being a good human. But they were not really into the American system. Mm-hmm. But my dad had gone to American school when he was growing up.
Okay.
So he literally was like, oh, SAT prep and SAT everything is not offering your school. But in this American school where I went, they're offering it. So he literally went to see if I could enroll in their services after school.
Wow. That's amazing.
Because my school didn't even offer it.
Okay.
So he just went to those school, and then I had tutors from that school. To make sure that I was prepared to compete against Americans so I could get into a good school.
Okay.
And he was like, your writing and reading is not going to be as good. So he's like, crush the math. No, he literally is like, crush the math.
Oh, really?
He's like, it doesn't matter how you try, how much you try. He's like, it's not going to be as good as a Native American, a native speaker. So he's like, just focus on the math and crush the math. And I was like, okay, again. I was like,
and did you like math?
Yeah. I did.
So that was good.
I did.
Because for me, I love writing. Like, no. I love writing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do it just as good as, a native.
No, I was like, okay, let me problem solve. And to this day, I'm a problem solver. Like,
wow. So when you came here, so did you come alone or did you come with your...
So my parents, so first of all, 1 year before, my dad went with me to do like a college tour.
Okay.
Because he's like, Americans do it this way, so we're going to show you all the campuses. And I'm again grateful because there's some that I decided against, because I was like, I don't see myself living here.
Okay.
And then I fell in love with the University of Virginia, and that, which was a middle of my list, but when I saw the campus, I was like, I want to go here.
Got it.
And I don't know how much you know about it, but it was founded by Thomas Jefferson and has a lot of history within the U.S. And alongside the United States becoming a country, like a lot of it's tied to my university, and it's beautiful history, a lot of values. So I resonated with that, coming from like a Catholic, very value-oriented background. I was like, this sounds like what I need.
And that was a way to emerge into the culture,
yes,
right? So,
yes, because all that lovey-dovey culture value, it just sounded like home to me, but on a different scale. Because I went to a school where I had like 60 classmates, and now I was going to have thousands. And I was like, I love this. I'm going to be a number. Sign me up. Because I was tired of all the teachers knowing everything about you. I was like, I just want to kind of find my identity, find myself, and see like who is Chantal outside of like the strong influence that my parents had on me, which it was a good combination, because my dad was more on the tough side. My mom was very good with the emotional side. So I think at the end it made me a very balanced person overall.
Okay.
But I think I still wanted that, let me see who I am outside when nobody's watching, when my parents are not around. And that experience at the university just gave me that and opened the doors to kind of seeing who I am and what I want, what I like, without my parents being there.
And what did Chantal discover while she was going through that transition? Was it hard at the beginning when you came to the US?
Hard. It was hard. Like I had gone to like summer camps since I was like 12, like in different cities and like different countries, and I loved exploring always. But I think when it hit month 2, 3 that I realized this is not a summer camp, I'm here like the whole semester and onto next year, it started to hit me. And I was like, I didn't know how to cook, and I wanted plantain so bad. I wanted Dominican food. I was like tired of doing my own laundry. I grew up with having like 2 or 3 maids. I was like, I'm tired of doing laundry.
So funny.
I wanted to kick the basket down, because I had one of the worst dorms. It was on a hill, and I was on the top of the hill, and the laundry room was on the bottom. I wanted to kick that laundry down and be like,
oh no,
just
wants to do laundry?
and then it's like snowing, and you have to like literally carry the basket through the snow down without falling. It was a learning experience, and I realized I was more capable than what I thought with a lot of things. And also I feel like I was never a people pleaser with other people outside of my parents, but I think I was with my parents. And then that's when I discovered to kind of say no to things that they wanted, and kind of be strong and just be like, this is what you wanted for me and I appreciate it, but it's not what I want necessarily. And I started kind of exploring, like they had a hard time with me minoring in art history.
Okay.
Like I come from a family with like a strong finance background, and they were like, if you break it by credit, you know how much his art classes are costing. And I'm like, I don't want to know that. I'm learning just as much. And actually, through those art classes was where I actually ended up developing my writing skills.
There you go.
So full circle moment, like the thing that I was like struggling, you're not going to write as a native today.
And I can see that, because that's also what attracted you to that university was the
history.
Exactly.
And all the architecture that they have.
I
So
love it.
Literally full circle. It's like, it's part of me. I have a big creative side. I'm a big numbers person, but I have a creative side. And it was kind of finding that identity, that it's okay to have more than one passion. It's okay to have multiple passions.
Which is you. That represents you. Who you are.
Since I was little.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think when I was little, my parents were okay with me having multiple passions, because everything kind of worked out and they could control it. Once like it was out of their question, they were, is she going to do so well in economics if she's focusing this attention into art? Yeah. And, that's what kind of,
Yeah. So I took it was like a workshop, and it was about strengths, right? Finding your strength, or seeing, you realizing that, I don't know which one are my strengths. And then, I can see why this is my strength, right? And one of the things that the, facilitator said was that sometimes parents, when we are in school, they see that we got a Z on or an F or math, and they're like, you need to, become good at math. You need to become good at math.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of realizing that, hey, you got an A on English or, art, and that's where your strengths are and where you might need to develop those more than where you got a
Correct,
bad
correct. And it's
grade.
just
So, yeah.
and it's culturally, sometimes we're obsessed with like just minimizing our disadvantages. And it's like, why don't we just build on what you're already good
Yeah,
at naturally,
exactly.
where you have natural talents and abilities,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
So when did you decide to come to Orlando after?
So I did not decide to come to
Oh, you
Orlando.
didn't.
No.
So what happened?
So what happened is I studied 4 years in Virginia. I did not have a car. So
Okay.
all of the jobs that I applied to were on campus at the football stadium. And I wanted to do something different than my parents, but it didn't happen. I ended up getting a banking interview, doing really good at it.
Okay.
And because, side note, I had interned in banking since I was 12.
What?
So by the time I was 21, like if you asked me anything about banking,
that was already in you.
I know it was in me.
Yeah.
It was pretty easy to ace
Yeah,
those.
yeah.
Like, so yeah, I did pretty well on that one. And I got a job with BB&T, RIP. The bank no longer exists because it merged with SunTrust and now it's Truist. But I got a job in their leadership development program, which was in North Carolina.
Okay.
So super excited. Found one person in my like 30,000 people university that was going to the same program. How that happened? The universe. And this guy was like this like cute Asian guy. I love him since like till today. We met. We were like, okay, we like each other, and we like went together in room.
Okay.
He basically drove me because I had no car still.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the bank took care of our like to ship our stuff. Although I was living out of one suitcase, literally I had nothing. And then when I got there, he helped me get my first car and negotiate. It was super cute. And I spent 6 months there. And by the end, they said, you're going to Orlando. And I was like, oh, they gave me a list of places to choose. So
they transfer you.
And yeah, the program ended and they were going to find me a job. And I had a 5-year contract. And Orlando was nowhere in my list that I gave them. Because I just knew like Disney Universal, like most people.
Exactly.
So I was like, okay. And then when I got here, my coworkers were like, are you excited? And I was like, well, Orlando was not on my list. I've always been pretty honest and open. And I said it was not on my list.
Which were the places that you wanted to go?
I wanted to go either to Miami, Charlotte, Austin, Dallas, or DC, the most. But I said either a bigger city or I wanted somewhere close to a really good hub airport so I could go back home and visit my family in Dominican Republic. Yeah. Because at the time from Virginia, North Carolina, visiting my family took like a day or more. There's no direct flights. I had to take trains and taxis and 2 planes. It was horrible.
Yeah, that's the same thing that is happening to us, the Venezuelans. Right?
Yeah. So I wanted like a place with a big international airport so I could visit because most of my family still lives in Dominican Republic. So that was important for me. So when they said Orlando has direct flights to Dominican Republic. So I was like, let me see if I like it because at least check it has a good airport. I can see my family often. And that was 8 years ago and I don't plan on leaving. I don't. I told my coworkers, I don't know anything about Orlando, but I'm open to getting to know it. And they were like, we're going to make you like it. Yes. And I'm glad I was honest because then they took me to all their spots, all their neighborhoods. Each of them lived in different places. And I was like single and open. So I was like, take me, I'll go with you anywhere to get to know the city. And then I ended up falling in love with it myself.
Oh, the same thing happened to me. At the beginning, of course, I came to this country for not the best reasons, but at the beginning I was like, oh my gosh, Orlando has changed a lot since then. Of course, I came here 20 years ago and the only thing that there was Disney. Of course, there wasn't anything for locals, right? But I remember when I went to Barcelona to study, and that was, oh my gosh, 8 years ago, or 7 years ago. And I moved over there and I loved it, right? Because of the culture, things to do, and, a lot of like good food, like the restaurants, everything, a lot of culture. So my dad was like, "Oh, has changed a lot." I'm like, I don't believe it. I'm not. I'm like, oh no, now they do this and this, and I have gone to, he named
like,
several places, and
you're like,
when I came back, I was so impressed because the same thing happened. I fell in love with Orlando because my goal was to come here, open the business, and then like go back to Spain, right?
go back to Spain.
Yeah,
You're like,
no,
no,
but
it's not happening.
I love my community.
I love it. I know, and you're
I
very
know.
connected with the community. So I
Yes,
I don't see you going anywhere.
yeah, no, I don't think so. Not for now, at least. Oh my God. So when you came here,
Mhm.
so we already had like many Hispanics here
Yeah.
in Orlando. So, did you feel kind of like at home or?
I was worried, like, for example, like going through like a Miami, because it might be
Mm-hmm.
a little more of what I was already used to. But I do like Orlando because it has a lot of different migrants from so many
Mm-hmm.
communities.
Mm-hmm.
It like anything from, Asia, Europe, like Africa, and all sides of Latin America,
I
the
know.
very south, the very north, so I did like that a lot.
Okay.
At first, I think the one tough thing for me was explaining my story,
Mm.
and kind of this story that I just walked you guys through briefly was kind of tough for me because I would see a lot of the Hispanics being like the cleaning staff, the support staff, and all of that, or even in the bank in the more clerical positions and stuff. And that was tough for me to see
Mm-hmm.
because always came, I was fortunate enough that I had a good education. My parents like paid through all that. And I was able to get student loans because I had been born in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized that I had been very fortunate and had come from a position of privilege.
Yeah.
So then I kind of feel embarrassed because I didn't have the same struggles that they did.
Wow.
So it kind of made me feel bad,
Mm.
and I wouldn't, and then a lot of people didn't understand why my parents lived in Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
Like they just assume I came here, the American dream. I came here as a kid. I didn't have a choice, and my parents came for a better life. When in reality, like that's
It
not my
wasn't.
story,
It wasn't.
And so it was hard for me at first to kind of share that and find an identity and feel good about my story. Because just like the underdog and the American dream is what it's like advertised everywhere.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And even in the
Mhm.
Hispanic circles, when you go to all these galas and you see the Hispanics in chambers doing great and they have a speech, half, like 90% of the speeches, I don't feel identified with them because
It's different.
it's the
It's
one
different for
Hispanic
you.
that came with nothing and then built a multi-million-dollar business, and we're celebrating today because he came from nothing and now he's doing all this.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, that's definitely not my story. I've
Yeah.
always had something.
Yeah. And I was telling you the same thing, prior to starting recording that, I kind of felt something similar because I came from Venezuela because my dad was already here in Orlando, and it was after my mom passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the Venezuelans, were escaping the situation, the political situation in Venezuela, and they had to do political asylum and gone through so many struggles, and starting from literally from zero, where I had, my family here, my dad, my brother, and my stepmom at that time. But so I also felt bad because I wasn't going through the same situation that my Venezuelan community was going through, and it was hard to
It is tough
yeah.
because it makes you feel like, well, do I deserve this?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I here? Like, and for example, I also ran into people asking me about visa situations, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
Because luckily for me, I happened to be born when my parents were studying in the US. And my dad has always been an overachiever. I think his work paid for his
Wow.
master's. So
Yeah.
like,
And did you get any comments? Because
I
I
did
did.
I know I got a lot of comments because
Yeah.
they would like be like, oh, you don't count because you have an American passport.
Yeah.
Like they would like literally dismiss me. So then I'm like, do I feel bad that I don't have to do it? Do I feel
Yeah.
good that I'm lucky? Like it kind of puts you in like a weird
Yeah.
situation because then you're not like white enough to be an American, but you're not like Latino enough because you're not struggling. So it's like, who the heck are I? Like
Yeah.
who am I? So
No,
it's
the
kind of,
same team.
it takes you a little bit, but then I feel like the more I got entrenched with the community and with my story and the more things and projects that I got to do, I was like, you know what? This is my story. This is who I am. And people like me for who I am. And it's still very kind of awkward for me when people ask me like, oh, why is your family not here? Or is your family here? It kind of feel a little bit odd.
Yeah.
Because I just want to be like, because they have 2 businesses and they have no reason to be here.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
They're
stop
good
asking me.
over there.
None of your business. Like, I
But-
kind of want to be like, none of your business.
But it's true.
Like, no, not everybody wants to live in the United States.
Yes,
Please, there's a
exactly.
lot of successful Latinos, Latinas,
in
Hispanics
our own countries.
outside of the United States. And but you don't want to have a debate
No, of
and a
course
whole
not.
discussion with everybody that you encounter.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, because they like it where they live, know.
No, they will tell the same things to my sister and I. And I remember my sister and I discussing that they will tell us like, oh, you were lucky because you didn't go through this and this. I'm like, well, we lost our mom. So it depends, you cannot, it depends on the situation. You cannot, like see if your story is, I don't know, like,
it's worth more or less because you struggled. Yeah,
exactly. So don't compare. Don't compare.
Yeah,
stories because we all have different. That's the beauty of it, and that's why Hablamos Spanglish exists, right?
Yeah.
And to tell those stories so we can inspire. But so Chantal, you said that you have different talents, and I have seen it because I'm your friend, and I love it because besides banking, you also decided to go towards your passion, which is food, and now podcasting. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I've always had like a crazy artistic side, but because of the banking and the structure, I'm like, I need to make money. And I was told that I couldn't make money somewhere else, but that is changing.
It is.
It's changing.
For creatives, love finally, right?
Yes. I'm excited. So banking, I guess, fourth generation banker was there. But when I was little, I had a jewelry business. Oh. So I already knew that I had that creative side. But I made money, made my first investments. So I learned more about banking with my jewelry. It's like every time it goes back to, but anyways, when I graduated college, some of my friends loved exploring and traveling. And I think we went to different cities. So we wanted to do like a trip or two to visit new countries and then also to have a trip to look forward to stay connected.
Oh.
So then that idea of discovering new places.
But that's another passion of yours.
That idea of discovering new places started setting. Es como que, dale. Two countries a year. Let's do it. Okay. And then we realized, why do we travel? To eat and take pictures. So then we are eating and taking pictures. And I think 2017 was like peak of that. I went to Thailand, Japan, like almost a month, crazy. 2018 comes around. And then I'm already like a few years in Orlando, keeping this tradition. And people are like, you always know where to eat. And and you always take pictures. They're like, you should put it somewhere to help other people. Because I always go to the same 3 places. So then one day I was like, well, I wasn't doing anything, and that's weird. So I'm always doing 100
You are
things.
always doing. We are always doing it.
Yeah.
Because we see each other all the time now.
Yeah, you too. You too. So that day I wasn't doing anything, and I was with a friend of mine, and I was like, hey, let's try this Instagram shit. Let's try this shit.
Oh, my gosh.
Literally. And he's like, what do we do? How do we do hashtags? And I literally just went through my phone and started putting all the pictures that I already have from my travels. And I had recently gone to Morocco.
Oh,
So I
nice.
started putting stuff. People thought I was in Africa at the moment. I said, no, it was a few months, but I'm just practicing, practicing, putting my things on Instagram, practicing.
Activity.
Exactly. You know, fast forward, it has grown where I'm like a foodie or food content creator, and I work with brand deals. And, you know, later somebody close to me was like, you should meet these people. You should have a podcast. And I was like, are you sure? They're like, yeah, you should do this. And sure enough, it happened. And it's one of the things that's like giving me the most excitement.
I'm really excited for you
No, thank you. I have like 100 projects, and that one is like, it's just very exciting.
And I love how you balance everything. Like you are, you know, you have your work, you know, at the bank. Then you do the food on Instagram, and then also the podcast. So how do you do it?
I don't know, but as you said, as you kind of connected the dots from the beginning, I always had multiple passions. Like, I think if I'm always just in one path, one route, I just get bored and miserable. Like, absolutely bored and miserable. So I have to have like
doing something.
Different things to feed, I guess, like different parts of my brain and my heart, so that everything can just cohabit and just, I don't know. I like, that's kind of how I work. And I structure in a way, like I'm taking off 2 Mondays. I'm taking off in a few weeks, one day. Well, that day I'm batch recording to have content for 2 months for my podcast. So then as the episodes come out, like I have all the recording, then I can focus on promoting it. I have an event coming up, like in an afternoon, do this. And then in that I can also create content and go out and eat and discuss with friends, you know? So I kind of make sure that everything connects and that they cohabit. All of them.
And I love it. And I think that, you know, one of the biggest takeaways as we are concluding our conversation, I think one of the biggest takeaways that, you know, our listeners can have is that, you know, you have a passion, right? Besides, you can convert your passion as your work, but also if you're working, you can also have your passion aside, your passion project, and make it a dream come true, just like the way you have done it. So I'm very excited. I'm proud of you. And please follow her at
I have like internet issues identity, but at Let's Try This _Orlando, you can find, that's like my main Instagram where you can find a lot of stuff, but also www.leschisme.com. It has all the podcast stuff. It's mainly in español. But we got a couple people speaking English, some episodes. I'm keeping
just like this one, because
exactly keeping it open.
You know, when I saw that when you launched your podcast, I was like, "Les Chisme." So that's Spanglish. I'm like, oh, we need to talk about this in Hablamos Spanglish, because that's the way you know who we are. And here, I didn't even know that it had a bad connotation years ago, because people had either you speak Spanish correctly and fluently or English, but you don't mix both. But that's, you know, that's
that nowadays. I mean, I lived 18 years in the Dominican Republic, now 12 in the United States, and my brain is exactly like that. 12 and 18 competing. It's like, whoa, which one do we speak?
and switching from one to another
all
one.
The time,
right? All the time. Yeah, that's funny. Sometimes I have my American friends, and, you know, a Spanish word just comes out, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
You know, like,
oh no, but there are words even all my American friends, they know, because there's some words
that
I just can't. Like, if I'm not thinking, there are a few words that I'm just like, it's gonna come out in Spanish. So if you're close to me, just learn it, because I won't say it in English.
Chantal, well, thank you so much for coming to Hablamos Spanglish and sitting here with me. Before we end, I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions that you're just gonna answer with the first
rapid
thing that
fire?
Comes to mind.
Woo! I'm ready.
So, your favorite place, or place that you would like to visit here in the U.S.
In the U.S.?
Yeah, that you haven't been to. I know you travel a lot, but here in the U.S.
Oh my gosh. I want to go to Vegas. I haven't gone.
Oh, you haven't gone? Okay,
and I want to do some of those crazy over-the-top dining places that are overpriced, but I want to do it.
I went to the tallest building in Vegas is there, and it's amazing. Yeah, but it's overpriced.
No, I have a list of restaurants, and they're just like show
It's
business.
called Top of the World, that one. Okay. Yeah, it's very cool. Okay, so favorite type of music?
Oof. It depends on my mood,
okay,
but I'll choose Juan Luis Guerra as my artist.
Oh, yes. 100%. Let me see. Favorite sport?
To play or to watch?
Okay.
Ha ha ha.
Okay, tell me both. Which I know you like it to play before.
Yeah, so right now I think I enjoy the most playing tennis.
Okay.
At the moment. And to watch, it would be either MLS or F1.
Okay. And now to conclude, just un consejo, that you would like to give to our audience. We have audiences that are Hispanics. We also have Americans that are learning more about who we are, why we come to this country, So what would you tell them?
So my advice, consejo, whatever you want to call it, would be curious about other people's stories, never assume, and just let them. I always ask open-ended questions to see what the person feels comfortable sharing, because you don't want to assume and ask questions that for you are innocent, but are like seem to be predisposed or with just like a little bit of judgment on wrong preconceived notions, So I think my general advice would be just be curious about people's stories, and they'll surprise you. People migrate and travel to other countries or decide to settle in different cities for so many reasons that people will surprise you every time. So just be curious and ask, what's your why?
Yeah.
And let them get inspired, and you'll get closer to people from all cultures just being that open.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Appreciate it. And, thank you again. And I hope this will be the first time that you come here of many.
I like it.
And I hope I can be in this
Give some love to the episode so that they bring me back.
Thank you, Chantal.
Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, mi gente. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey of Hablamos Spanglish. It is a pleasure for me to explore the diverse stories and experiences within our vibrant Hispanic community. I hope that you have found inspiration, connection, and a deeper appreciation for our culture and heritage. Remember, our stories are what unite us and what make us stronger. Stay tuned for more captivating episodes in the future, and don't forget to follow us on social media and share your thoughts with us. Hasta pronto.